Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Accelerate Your Life podcast. I am your host, Mallory Marks, and I am joined today by Miss Ellen Bell. We're so happy to have her here. And for those of you guys who don't know, Ellen is our newest EA coach. She joined the team about like a month and a half ago, and really started rocking and rolling with clients about 2 weeks ago. So she's fresh into it. She's been a coach for a while, but we are lucky to now have her in our ranks with us. And I just wanted to do an episode with her so you guys could get to know her a little bit more and really just get to hang out with her selfishly as well. I'll obviously let you introduce yourself as well. You guys can hear her on there, but she is living in Australia right now, so like we're on totally different time zones. So I haven't got to like bond with you as much as I feel like the other coaches, but I feel like we would just hang out so well in person. So I'm glad to
I
have a
know.
little like half hour here where we get to hang out and chat.
I
Um,
know. The amount of times I've thought, like, should I just like fly to America one time and just do a
yes.
round trip? Feel you guys?
Absolutely. Well, we've
I
got the
probably
hope.
will do that.
Yeah, hopefully there, I mean, I know it would be a lot for the retreat, but if we do end up having that, you should come. I mean, or we all
Yeah.
come to Australia. I would also do that
Or
too.
maybe like 2025 retreat could be on
Yes.
Australia,
I mean,
you know?
I'm not
You've got
opposed to it. Even if it's just me, I will pretend it's a
yeah.
business expense and put it on the business card.
Yeah. Just
Um,
have a meeting in Australia, just go on holiday, like whatever.
Yes, yes, amazing. But yeah, I'm very excited for everyone to kind of get to know you a little bit more. And I know when we were talking about like, okay, what do we want to focus on this episode? The thing that really kept coming up for both of us is just really our story with how we got to where we are today in terms of health and fitness, our relationship with food, all of that. So, and we have very similar backgrounds. So, I think we figured that would be a really good topic to talk about because I also think a lot of women have very, very similar stories to us, but unfortunately, not everyone gets to the other side in the way that we did and figures out like the truth with it and like the things that actually promote a much better relationship. And so I'm just hoping that this can maybe serve as an outlet for anyone struggling with the things we used to struggle with, and hopefully it brings some hope of like you can get to the other side, not that you necessarily need to make it literally your career, but you can gain the knowledge and the freedom and all of those things, to maybe not have like food and body image struggles and all of this have such a damn chokehold on your life.
Yeah, I
So yeah,
know.
so we'll definitely dive into that. But before we do, I like to ask all of my guests one question. What is your favorite thing about life right now?
Oh, that's such a nice question. My favorite thing about life, oh God, that is a very profound question. I think the simplicity and beauty of it, I'm really enjoying because it's a very independent life that I'm just living with my boyfriend in this new city, in this new town, like in Australia that I've never lived before. And I think it's just really stripped down to its like simplest form. And I love it because I wake up in my new apartment that I've never lived with before with my boyfriend, and I do my work and I go to the beach. And I know that sounds like kind of a weird answer, but it just have so many moments since I've moved here where I'm just like, life is great, like we'll just take ourselves to the beach and have dinner on the beach instead of having it in our apartment. And just the little things, because our
Yeah.
life is so like simple, I think is making it so beautiful right now. And I think I'm just really happy right now.
I
We
think
don't need thrills, we don't need the social life, we don't need all the going out right now. It's just very like humble and sweet, and I just love it.
I think that is the most beautiful answer you said in there that you think it's silly. I think absolutely not. Honestly, I'm so envious of that feeling because I know I've talked about this on the show, on the podcast before, but I really struggle with like being okay with the simple and just like relaxing and like chilling out and just being like, it's because it's very hustle culture, right? And go, go, go. And that's
Yeah.
something I've very much am trying to change and I see myself getting better, but I love that you enjoy leaning into it and like are able to just be, because that's the goal, right? Like, so I think it's a fantastic answer.
I think it was because last year I lived in Sydney, which is obviously a very big city. It's a very commercial city. It's very touristy. And I think my nervous system was just fried for the entire
Hmm.
year. It was a lot. And it wasn't even, there's much bigger cities out there like New York or London or whatever, but I still felt very overwhelmed by it. And I just wasn't that happy. And I think people assume that just because they're living in a big city, everything's going to be great. They're going to have all these friends and this social life or whatever. And it just ended up draining me and
Hmm.
making me feel stressed. My nervous system was just constantly on edge. And then that really made us decide to move here to just slow down. And now that I'm here, I'm like, oh, I think I need that smaller space to live. I don't think I'm a city girl really at heart.
Do you know, are you like an extrovert or an introvert?
So I used to be an extrovert, and I swear the older I'm getting, the more introverted I'm becoming. Yeah, I used to be a real like bubbly, loud kind of personality, outgoing, loved socializing, especially at uni. Whereas now I think I'm becoming a lot more introverted. I mean, I've always preferred to have that one close friend rather than a
Mhm.
big friendship. I've always liked picking people out of groups and hanging out with them one to one and building that personal connection. But definitely the older that I'm getting, the more introverted I'm becoming. And I just want my circle and my life and my space to just be very intimate and
Isn't it's
small.
interesting because yeah, I think like one difference I hear in you of like liking kind of being alone and the slow pace. I think why I struggle with that is I've learned recently that I'm an extrovert. I thought I was like an introvert because I do like my like charge down time, but I have noticed that I just like to be stimulated by people and be doing active things with people. And yeah, just I don't know why I thought I was an introvert for so long. But I think that because too, like I think you can still be an introvert who likes socializing. It's more about
Yeah.
I don't think introverts don't like socializing. I think it's more about like, hey, you need to like you lose coins or battery when you like socialize and you have to recharge, and I gain it more. So
Yeah.
I do it.
And I think for me, I'm in between because depending on who I'm with, I can
Totally.
100% hang out with people and gain that
For sure.
recharge battery. But yeah, I'm very particular. And I think that's why
Totally.
I'm both, because I obviously still feel like I want friends and I want to have a social life and stuff like that. And every once in a while, I'll feel like I want to go out and have fun. But generally speaking, I can just stick to myself. And I was even thinking, like, God, I just want like a dog. And I was like, God, I'm getting old. Like, I just want a dog and a house. Like, I'm only 27, but I'm thinking like I could
Oh
settle
yeah.
down now.
Oh
Obviously not
gosh.
kids, but like I could definitely settle down with just like a farm and a dog somewhere.
Oh yeah, us at our ripe age of 27. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have made rules. If anything starts later than like 8 p.m., I'm not going. Like it is, yeah, we're done with that life. But anyway, beautiful answer. It's so funny with that question because when I originally thought of this, I was like, oh, this will be like people say like, oh, I love my dog or I love my coffee. Or for me, I'd probably be like, I love pickleball. But like all the answers have been so profound, and I'm like, I totally would
Aww.
answered that profoundly. But anyway. I'm super excited to kind of dive into this topic and just chat a little bit more about, yeah, like our history with health, fitness, relationship with food, all of those things. So I think kind of a good question to like kick us off and set the stage for you is, do you have an earliest memory or like or earliest memory of when you had a conscious or a negative even thought about either food or your body and when that was and what was it?
Yeah, I remember this is just, it shows how ridiculous girls can be when they're just insecure and for no
Oh, wait
reason
for
as
mine. Wait for mine. You know,
well.
we'll
I
see
can't
whose is
wait.
worse.
Yeah. So mine, I think, it was in my last few years of school. So I think I was probably 17 or 18. And it was that stupid obsession with like the thigh gap. And
Mm.
because I was naturally quite slim and athletic anyway, I think I was very conscious of that changing. And so I wanted to make sure that I was just staying slim and like my hormones weren't changing my body, whatever, which was just so awful. And so I remember just having I remember like announcing this to people as well, being like, I'm going on a nuts and seeds diet, which I just
Ours
made
is the
up.
same. Oh my God. Mine was a fruit and nut diet. I also made
Yeah,
it up. Whoa, that's
yeah.
weird. I've never heard of
And
it.
but I
We literally
just
have
had
the
it
same
for
story.
lunch. I can't remember if I ate breakfast. I probably didn't have breakfast either. And then I would just bring a little pack of nuts and seeds to school with me and just have that for lunch. I
This
can't
is
believe I was
actually
this.
crazy. We are the same person. I've never heard I was gonna say my story is literally, I'm like, I started to interrupt. I'm just like, because I've never heard
No.
this. I remember it was middle school. So just sad how early it was. But a fruit and nut diet. So like basically the same thing where you literally only could eat fruit and nuts. And I remember lunchtime bringing just a pack of like almonds and
Yeah.
strawberries. And that is what I ate. And I think I also didn't eat breakfast. Like, wow, where the frick did we get that? Like, where
I
did we get that
don't
from?
know. And it's so sad because it's not even as if I'm assuming you weren't overweight either. So,
No,
like, the fact that we weren't overweight, we were probably slim and looked great. It's like, where does this come from? And I was in an all girls school as well. So I didn't even have that external pressure of like maybe boys or anything like that. So I just don't know where it came from.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting with that is like I feel like especially at that age, it wasn't even about boys or being liked. It was like honestly the other girls, not well, both from the perspective of like I know for me, I think I really struggled with wanting to fit in and be cool and like be with the cool girls and like the cool girls like me. So there was like that aspect. But also too just hearing like because I know I remember my friends talking that way too. And that's I think where it came from. Like I don't think I necessarily pulled it out of thin air. I think one of my friends probably was like, I'm gonna do this and I would do it too. But it's like the other girls just you seeing how much it like inundated so many women.
Yeah, and even now as we're coaching, like the amount of women that come through our doors that basically have eating disorders in
Yeah.
some sense, some form, and it's just like, whoa, this is like a epidemic that
Yeah.
isn't really spoken about, I think. I think it's like a lot of women just have these silent battles, potentially their entire lives, that isn't really spoken about, but we just label it as like dieting or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
And I think, it must just come from such deep rooted insecurity or sadness, or I don't know what it is, but it's really sad that so many women struggle with it and from
Yeah.
such a young age as well, like we did.
Yeah. Okay. So for you, that was like end of high school. I mean, I don't know what you guys call it, primary school.
Yeah, end of
But like
high
yeah,
school.
age, 17, 18. So what kind of happened and transpired from there? Like was that the like off to the races, things kind of slid downhill from there? What did that evolution kind of look like?
There was a pause and then it just went downhill. So I then went to university, but I was in catered accommodation. So I think that was what kept me afloat because I didn't have to worry about food. So that was when I discovered the gym. So I was probably becoming a little bit obsessive with the gym at that point, but nothing too crazy. But I was catered, so I didn't need to worry about food. I would just eat whatever my eating habits were just normal. And then it was second year when I first moved into my home with my friends for the first time. So it was the first time paying bills, living alone, like all these things, doing grocery shops. That was when it started to kick off because I think I sort of kid myself that, oh, I'm just trying to save money to begin with. So I would obviously like seriously limit what I was eating. I was trying to keep my grocery bill down as much as possible, and then I think it just snowballed from there. Plus I was going to the gym, so I wanted to be healthy, but I didn't know what healthy meant. So I was just eating extremely ridiculous meals that were sort of healthy, but the amount that I was eating was so small, made it unhealthy. And then from there I obviously started to lose the weight. I then kind of became like obsessed with that, seeing that weight loss on the scale. And then it just became this like dark snowball effect that got way out of hand. And I was actually consciously starving myself at this point. People were starting to, what was really sad as well throughout this entire journey is that I got more compliments when I started to lose the weight because they were like, oh my God, your thighs are so skinny. I wish I had your thighs. And so obviously that spurred me on, which shows like the culture that we have
Mm.
is so messed up. And yeah, and I was like fainting. It was just awful. It was so, so awful. So, but yeah, it was one of those things where I still kind of masked it. I think I was kidding myself that I
Yeah.
didn't have an eating disorder.
Yeah.
I was just being healthy. I was just slim. And I think because I was lifting weights as well, I was able to kid myself even further that I was just, lean. When I think if I wasn't lifting weights and I was just like gaunt and slim, it would have made it slightly less believable. I don't know. It was just, I was good at covering it up. I was good at functioning with it, but when you look back, I was like, what the hell was I doing? It was
Yeah.
insane.
It's 2020. Yeah. And we'll obviously get into like how you pulled yourself out of that. But actually, I think it would be really good for people to hear because if somebody's doing this too and doesn't even realize it, because again, I think it's easy to kid yourself because you're still maybe eating like new healthy foods. What was an example of one of those like healthy foods that or healthy meals that wasn't healthy? Because in reality, not that the foods weren't healthy, but like it wasn't enough.
So obviously I would never have breakfast. So I would
Obviously.
purposely, obviously, I would purposely lie in just like, I mean, I lied in anyway because I was a student, but I would wake up late and think, yes, like I will naturally not even need breakfast. I can just skip that and have my lunch. And then my lunch would be some tomatoes and like 2 eggs or something. So you know what I mean? Like that's
Yep.
not unhealthy, but like it's probably like 300 calories or something. And that would be my
Actually,
lunch.
I can tell you exactly because I literally just edited today a piece of content. Everybody look out for it next week about how 2 eggs is not frickin' breakfast. 2 eggs is not breakfast. I'm like, 2 eggs
Wow.
is not enough breakfast. It is 140 calories and 10 grams protein. That's great.
Yeah,
2 eggs are great, great cholesterol, great nutrients, but that's like that's just a piece of a meal. Like you need more calories than that. You need more protein than that. You need more like where are your carbs? Where like, yeah. So funny you say that
yeah.
because we got content coming for that.
Oh, so yeah, like 200 calories
Yeah.
max, and that would be my lunch. And then I would maybe have like a chicken breast and some veggies for dinner or something.
So
So I
congrats.
was very
500
consciously trying to
calories.
eat healthy. Yeah, yeah, definitely eating under 1,000 calories. And then it almost made me into sort of like a binge eater as well, because as I said, I was functioning alongside it. So I would still go out for dinner sometimes with friends, but then I would eat double the amount that everyone
Right.
else ate because I was so starving. Or I would, me and my friends would order takeaway and I would again eat twice as much as everyone else. Or sometimes I was so hungry I couldn't sleep. So I would rifle through my roommates' cupboards just to find anything to eat, whether it was a packet of crisps or just anything, because I was so starving. I literally couldn't sleep with the hunger pains. So it was making me like this weird, like binge eater, and like I was stealing people's food because I just couldn't bring myself to buying the food myself. It was so fucked up. It was so strange. And it just took over me without even realizing it. And it was like a slow build as well, which I think
Yeah.
made it worse.
And obviously, like, because I know I have things like that too. Obviously, saying that all out loud now, I'm sure you're like, the fuck? Like, what? That, like, that's obviously crazy. But, like, in the moment,
Crazy.
it's so hard to see that. And you're like so skewed. And so, again, like, anybody listening to this, like, if it's, and don't feel shame, like, it
Yeah.
happens. But because I know that's hard to share too. But, like, these are things that are like red flags of, hey, that's not normal behavior. Yeah, it's tough. But I know, I mean, for me, before we kind of get into like how we finally got away from that, like it's funny because I mentioned the fruit and nut diet was like probably I was like 13, 14, which is so sad. But I remember after that, like it's hard. I feel like I always joke I have the worst memory, the worst long-term memory. So it's
Yeah,
hard to
same.
like think back to it. But I
Same.
really don't think I struggled too much the rest of high school, partly because I was just the pickiest damn eater ever. Not for anything health related. I was just like a picky eater. So I had what I ate and like there wasn't really any option to eat like to do anything else. And I don't know, I was after I lost my like baby fat, which finally happened around like seventh grade, I was a pretty like naturally skinny person. So I just never really had to like worry too much about it. But then I remember sophomore year of college, I studied abroad. And then I think that's when I like branched out of my shell of being a picky eater because I kind of had to eat different things. And I was like, oh wow, I actually like things that aren't buttered
Where
noodles.
did you go?
I went to Copenhagen. So in
Okay.
Denmark.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess a new diet culture, new
Yeah,
kind of
just
like
and I was
way of
like,
eating.
I am it like this is a unique opportunity, Mallory. If you only like, I would all only eat chicken nuggets and buttered noodles, and I was like, I am 19. I must branch out here. So I did force myself, and I was like, wow, I like other things. And then I think I kind of like went overboard, and I remember coming back, seeing the scale be up, and I was like, and I just remember all of a sudden it was a flip of the switch. Like I went from never caring really at all and just eating whatever and like getting late night food every night freshman year to like I am going to be at 1200 calories and track everything and like God, I remember like Googling things, finding keto. I remember vividly being like, okay, I'm doing keto. This is it. Like, this is gonna work. And making gnocchi, with those like potato, the potato pasta, but making like, I'm using air quotes for anybody watching on YouTube because it was not the potato pasta. It was you rolled mozzarella balls into the shape of gnocchi and then fried them in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, that's keto, right? Like that's healthy. No, I'm literally eating balls of cheese. What the like?
Fried cheese.
Yeah, fried cheese, and that's better than eating carbs. Like, of course. It just like the shit we
Oh,
did and fell into, it just blows my mind. Um,
yeah.
and I really
Well,
went,
what's funny, sorry to
oh, go
interrupt, but
ahead.
what's so funny about my sort of journey as well is that so my stomach is more sort of straight, kind of like that athletic
Mhm.
stomach rather than a curvaceous stomach. And that's just like my genetics. It's
Yeah.
not going to change. It's just the way that I look. And I think I could never accept that when I was younger. And that's what I really wanted to change. But because A and B, I tried to change it, but I didn't know how. So instead of obviously like changing your like sculpting your physique
Yeah.
into that hourglass shape, I thought if I just become really, really skinny, then eventually that hourglass will start to
So
take
your
place. Like that was,
bones will shrink.
yeah, like my bones will change, and suddenly I'm gonna have this giant bum and giant back, and then this tiny little waist. And I just thought, cool, I'm just gonna keep losing weight until I get this hourglass shape. And again, it's just delusion, but then it's also just complete lack of education of
Yeah.
just anything. So you can see kind of how it formulates, but then it's also always shocking to see how extreme it was and how sad it is, I think, as well.
Well, and what's really sad is that like everybody wants what they can't have because you saying that
Yeah,
I'm the opposite. I very much have like the hips and like the smaller waist, but like the wider lats and more hips. And like now I've gotten to a place where I feel like I have sculpted it to more where it is like the hourglass I would want, but in the past, and it used to be, I don't know, I just hated that like my hips jutted out my way. But like that's what
yeah,
you're saying you want. And I was trying to be you and you're
yeah.
trying to be
I
me.
know.
We all chase what we can't have. And yeah, remember trying to think like if I was trying to shrink my like, yeah, hips and whatever to be, I wanted to be that. Like I hated the like, it's just sad because we all just want grass is green on the other side. And I think that's part of it too, is like the lack of education around understanding your body type and understanding you can still change things to a degree within what you're
Yeah.
built to be, but like understanding how to do that and how that works. But yeah, so I'd love to actually get into, I mean, I want to get into like how we literally physically change, but also part of that was realizing to some degree you can't change in the kind of the body acceptance. Like, how did you kind of end up getting to the place of that more self-love and accepting what your body type is and like the way you are now?
So I definitely started getting into training a lot harder. Like I actually started learning about training and understanding it. And I think when you take that seriously and you start to, progressively overload and you build strength and all that stuff, you want to get the best out of it. So three things, I think the three main things happened all at once. So I also did a year abroad, but in Australia. So where I'm living now was where I first did my year abroad. So I think it was that change in environment. I was more distracted with that. I didn't have the time to worry so much about like my food as much because I was in this brand new environment and I just wanted to enjoy my life and have fun. So that was a good distraction. I met my then boyfriend, and I think again, like it's just a positive distraction to be going on dates with people. And I know that I had this toxic relationship with food, but I still was never going to let that ruin a relationship where I'm like, I'm not going to go out for dinner, like,
Oh, because
God.
I definitely did.
Yeah, thank God. Like I easily could have not, but I think I just let myself relax into the relationship, and so that naturally relaxed my relationship with food in general. Plus getting into the gym. So those three things really just, I think, let me just take a breath and just slow down and enjoy life and not obsess and worry so much. Plus, I was then really starting to educate myself on exercise and nutrition. And so it all just kind of came together. And then I obviously was improving in those things. And then I just started building and growing from where I was. So it was weird because I was in such a dark place, but then with almost without even trying, naturally, slowly over time, just kind of got out of it um, through education for the most part. And I think, I don't know, maybe even little things like feeling loved by someone can help. Because I think a lot of the time, when I say to clients, like, I know that you can't rely on other people to give you gratification stuff, but try and just feel love and receive love for yourself, because it doesn't matter what the scale says, you're never going to be happy. So I think, love and self-love and self-acceptance is so important. But obviously, a relationship can help fast track that, which is, I think, what I needed. So
Totally. And I think, yeah, it's varying. I mean, it's funny because I feel like I had somewhat of a little bit of an opposite in terms of I definitely did let it ruin a relationship, my college relationship. It was somebody who was trying to give me like so much love and so much confidence. And I was constantly almost like, when you're like asking too much for that validation, even though like he was naturally giving it, but I would eat something and text him and be like, I ate this. Is it okay? Like, and I mean, that gets fucking annoying,
yeah,
like, and too much to
yeah,
weigh on a person.
yeah,
Constantly anxious about it. And I think I was too deep in a negative, like, just self-hate place to even allow someone like you said, you have to allow somebody to love you. And I was not allowing that. I was not allowing the like acceptance that somebody would like me at the place I was. And that
Mm.
was an eye opener when I kind of lost that of like, holy shit, I need to like figure things out. But I am trying to think too, like what like flipped it for me of almost realizing we're wrong. Like we're wrong in the eating less and hating ourselves. Like those are the wrong way. I'm trying to think like how I figured that out. And I don't know if it just happened all at once or if it was just like slowly starting to you like fall down that hole on Instagram and following some of the
Yeah.
good people. Like I think
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to, I don't know what exactly changed. I think just finally freaking realizing like this isn't working and like this is not a way to live.
Maturing. Yeah. Maturing, educating yourself. I mean, that definitely wasn't a light bulb moment for me. It
Yeah.
was definitely gradual. And you know what? A part of me sometimes thinks maybe I'll always have that little bit of like, oh, when it comes to my body image or whatever, because sometimes I think, God, I've never ever put myself through like a bulk before. Not that I necessarily need to go through. And then I was like, could I even do that? Because I was sort of questioning, like, I don't know how I would feel losing my abs or whatever. And I just thought, oh God, do I still have like an eating disorder? Like it's just one of those things where maybe it never goes away. Maybe you just learn to deal with it, or maybe it does completely go away. Like I think it's very unique to the person.
Absolutely.
Um,
And something like when I was first coaching, something I used to say to a lot of my clients is that I don't think it ever really goes away. I think what it more is how quickly can you like get that like I think it's like the angel and the devil on your shoulder, right? And I think it's more how like are you getting better at quickly shutting that devil up, right?
yeah,
Shutting those thoughts up and kind of talking them down. That's what I think more so it's about. And
yeah,
it's also this could be its own whole episode of itself, but it's tough because and I'd love even like your thoughts on this and how you maybe decipher the difference between the two. But we want to be conscious about what we eat, right? Like we want to think, we don't want to just be like, oh, I can eat whatever now. Like I have a relationship with food where I can have the pizza, the burger, the ice cream and have no guilt. Like that's also not good either. So there is a fine line between being
yeah,
conscious and, just in doing the things that are going to be best for you overall for your health and then being obsessed with it. So
yeah.
you find a point at all when you were really able to much better walk that line and what that kind of looks like for you now?
Um, I think as I was educating myself on nutrition, like even going through my level one nutrition and stuff like that, I think first realizing how much you can eat, I think was huge for me because it immediately gives you so much flexibility and freedom. And then I think it helps when, because I mean, I think I'm naturally just quite a healthy person in general. I like eating healthy, but I like, having a sprinkling of unhealthy sort of things or things where I'm just not even thinking about it and worrying about it. But for me, that balance has always been quite natural because I actually just don't enjoy more of the unhealthy things if it's out of balance. I think the whole point of this is that, you fuel your body, you nourish your body for the most part, and then you give yourself that reward because otherwise it's then not a reward. It's more just like
Yeah.
gluttony. So I think as long as you make sure that that balance is in check and I think that's reasonable enough to do because you can go out for dinner and not feel guilty. But if you went out for dinner like 5 nights in a week, then it's just not fun anymore. So it's just naturally finding like an obvious balance that works for you. And, you can eat the things that you want to eat and not feel, bloated or shit the next day. So I think it's just like trial and error and then obvious sort of gluttony over, just enjoyment.
I totally agree with that. I think like going through a period of time too where you really do intentionally and maybe it is kind of almost like forcing yourself for a period of time of swapping some of those things with more veggies and more whatever and like seeing the difference in how you feel because I think a lot of people don't know what they don't know. Like you don't know how bad
Yeah.
you feel until you feel good, right? And I
Yeah.
think realizing, hey, I feel really great when I eat this way, you just naturally want to begin to do that more. I think for me where that line really changed. You mentioned that like realizing how much you actually can and need to eat. I was like, wow, like I should be eating 2,000 calories. I have room to fit in an Oreo, but I only really want one. Great. I fit it in every day. And now I don't want 10 that one time that I allow myself to have it, right? Because I can have one every single day. I think that was a big thing for me. And then also too, I will say, I love volume. I love food. I want to have big meals, and you can do that when you pack it with veggies. So for me, like that was a big thing for me of like, I genuinely want to have a bunch of veggies because I want to have a big ass meal. And like if I can throw a bunch of like lettuce and salad, like throw salad together, a bunch of Brussels sprouts, the best vegetable of all time. Like I can eat a ton, and I think those were two big things.
Yeah.
Really like I genuinely like love that line of it's I'm not having the salad because I have to. I'm having it because like half the time I really want to. And so
Yeah.
really leaning into like how do I feel when I eat something I know made a big difference for me.
And that's a huge thing as well with what you said. A lot of people don't let themselves get to that point where they know what healthy feels like. And I think that's just an absolute game changer because when you get into the flow of it, it really does become your lifestyle rather than you trying to not be, do the bad things or whatever. And you don't, you want to eat like that. You want to live your life like that. And I don't know, it's constant little micro wins throughout the day and throughout the week that where you just feel proud of yourself, just as much as you would feel proud of yourself if you woke up and meditated every day for 5 minutes before you started your day because you told yourself you would, or taking yourself out on a walk, like all these wins that you do and accumulate throughout the day and the week for your health and for your mind and whatever, you feel so good about it. You feel proud of yourself, you feel proud of the body that you have, the life that you've created, and you're just constantly reaping the benefits of it because you just feel good all the time. And so, yes, it's nice to have that little treat every once in a while, but when that becomes your lifestyle, you don't want to not do that anymore. I think people just need the patience to help themselves get to that point where they don't need to have this constant inner battle with themselves where they're trying not to eat the unhealthy foods. But if they just gave themselves the time, they will eventually not want it anyway,
Yeah.
or just want a little of it.
Absolutely. And okay, so what I kind of want to leave people with though is obviously like you and I, we talked about where we started, how we kind of overcame a lot of this. And for us, like we fell in love with learning about it and became obsessed in a more healthy way of like the positive things and obsessed with learning and teaching. But obviously most normal people don't have that time. They have other jobs. They don't want to make a career out of this. So if you had to boil it down, I'm trying to think of mine. I think I have it. But if you had to boil it down to somebody who's in the position we were 6 years ago, 7 years ago, where they are listening to this and they're like, okay, I definitely maybe have a disordered relationship with food. I'm obsessing with it. I want to get to a place where I have more food freedom. They kind of get where we are. What would be one thing you would tell them to do, change, work on, focus on right now to kind of begin that journey?
I would say literally eat a decent meal sized breakfast, lunch, and dinner of just whole foods. Try to just not have like sugar and processed foods because I'm not saying you need to track, I'm not saying you need to even know what your maintenance is, but if you just have a healthy breakfast, lunch, and dinner that you make yourself at home, it's nutritious, it's, like nice ingredients and all that stuff, then that's like such a good place to start because then if you combine that with starting to lift weights, then you're already like at a really strong position. But I think taking all the pressure away from tracking calories, all that stuff, and literally just simplifying it down to just a healthy breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I think is the best thing that anyone should do. And if you don't, even if you've got a coach, but you're really overwhelmed with tracking, then you could even start with that as well. I think that's just the best place for anyone to start with is that.
Well, that must be the right answer because it was pretty much mine. Pretty much stole mine. No, I mean that's exactly what I would recommend too. I was gonna say if you were like to track anything, I would do protein and just only solely focused on
Yeah.
protein. I don't care what your total calorie amount is, just focus on having. I mean, you really said it. Whole foods, things from that are not processed from the earth or animal proteins. Focus on hitting like about your body weight in grams of protein if you're gonna track anything. And I
Yeah.
can promise you that if you are eating 95% whole foods, you are not going to overeat. You are going to be satiated. It's literally impossible. Like, I mean, it's not impossible, but like it's going to be very difficult. You're going to be
Yeah.
satiated by that amount of protein. Your body's going to feel really good from the types of foods you're putting in it. You're going to have a lot more energy to go train, work out, doing all the things you're doing. And I think you're going to be incredibly satisfied with the like body composition goals that you get. So totally, I couldn't
So
agree
simple.
more.
It's
Yeah.
so simple. It just takes away all the stress and the pressure. Like, just focus on and enjoy it, like take pride in finding healthy, yummy recipes and enjoy the cooking process. Like, try not to see it as this stress or in a battle with yourself all the time. Like, really enjoy the journey.
Yeah. I think like we've just so many people have gotten away. I see two sides of the coin. I'm gonna go a little right here, but like food, I think people have gotten away from food just being food. It's simply here to fuel us. And like everybody wants to, it's, now it's a social thing. It's meals have to be elaborate. Like, oh, you can't eat the same thing every day. And I get it. Like I get it. I'm not saying you need to eat the same thing every day, but food doesn't have to be this like big event where it is the most elaborate thing that you have every day. Like it is literally meant to just keep us alive and sustain us. And sometimes it's okay to just have chicken and a veggie and rice. And I know people might be hearing that and be like,
Yes.
oh, I'm not a bodybuilder. I don't want to do that. I'm not saying you need to do that all the time, but also just remember food is here to sustain us. Stop overcomplicating it. Eat things that are from the earth and fuel you.
Yeah. And you can make it taste good as well. Like I'm such a lazy cooker. Like I think people expect coaches to be perfect. I'm so lazy when it comes to food. So most of my meals are stripped down to its most basic form of like a protein source, a carb source, and some veggies. And that's pretty much what I'll make. And then I'll just try and mix it up as best as I can. It's so basic, but it works. I don't need to think and it tastes good. And like that's it.
I'm a sauce girl. Throw some different sauces, salsa. Oh,
Yeah,
you can take your
seasoning.
chicken, rice, and veggie and make it a taco with some salsa. You can make it some
Yeah.
Mediterranean with some hummus. You got the world is your
Burrito.
oyster. Yeah, there you go. Uh, awesome, awesome. Well, I think this was a really good conversation. And thanks for coming on. Anything else you want to add before I round it out?
I think it's just really important that women know not to deprive themselves of food and just think that it's okay to deprive themselves of food. I think this is the main message that we really need to say to everyone is if you feel like you are doing that, then it's never going to be the answer. It's never going to get you what you want, and just try and find a way out of this toxic diet culture because it's not the answer. I think that's a really
Correct.
important message.
And don't forget that 2 eggs is not a meal. Okay, we learned
Yeah, yeah, it's not a breakfast.
not a breakfast or a lunch. Amazing, amazing. Well, if people want to follow you, where are you at? Instagram, TikTok, where are we looking?
Um, Instagram, Ellen Health Coach. That's pretty much where I'm mostly active on.
Spelled
So I
right
would
in your name, I think.
no, that's just my email. So yeah, just Ellen Health Coach, normal Ellen.
Got it. Okay, ignore me.
Yeah, that's
Um,
my email. Don't worry. Yeah, Ellen Health Coach. That's my Instagram.
okay, amazing. And then if you guys want to work with Ellen, she does have an open roster right now, and I will post her application link in the show notes below. So if you do want to apply to work with her, that option is there. She's the best. And you get to listen to her amazing. I say that all the time. Her amazing
I feel like I say
accent
this
and
every
all
time.
your kids. I mean, God, I would want to listen to that days on end. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next week. Bye.